Welcome back to the Bright Morning Show. My name is Mono Balagbobo.
And I remain Dorkon Rimdan. Of course, we're going to be moving on or continuing on our variety segments now.
Of course, we are almost out of time. We brought to you the headlines. Soldiers discover arms factory in Nasarawa and arrest suspects. Nigerian soldiers, in the quest to maintain internal peace in the country, arrested a suspected gun runner with local guns on his way to meet up with one Damina Saminaka. And in a statement signed by Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman on Wednesday, it was revealed that the suspect, Mohammed Bello, was apprehended along at Akwanga Highway in Nasarawa State. The suspect confessed that he purchased the weapons from one Dan Asabe, a local blacksmith, and on getting to his place, the soldiers discovered a gun manufacturing factory where he has been producing firearms for criminals. I mean, I'm talking about terrorism in our country. I mean, this is amazing to know that we are even manufacturing some of these weapons that is being used to carry out evil acts on people. Well, thank God for the discovery. And the suspects were all arrested according to the army and will be handed over to relevant security agencies soon. And it's not just arresting them, but get to probe like who is responsible, because it costs a lot to build ammunitions and weapons for massive destruction.
Definitely not a one-man's business, so I'm sure that they're going to be probing to get more facts about that. Okay, still bringing you stories and moving away from terrorism. An angry Nigerian dad calls out private schools for giving students too much homework and says responsibility of teaching has now been shifted to parents. This is quite an interesting story.
I can honestly identify with that.
I think everybody that asked, because before I actually concluded with putting this up, I said I was going to find out from people. I asked about 5-6 people and everybody's story was the same. They all admit that yes, there have been too much homework given to children these days.
But it depends on the circumstances. I get the fact that they're trying to keep these children busy so that they can take their education seriously. But on the side, sometimes it can just be too overwhelming for the children.
I think why it's more of a problem now is because these days, you know, children close later than it used to be. You know, when I was growing up, 1 o'clock I'd be done with school, you know,
and you're home.
And you're home.
Now
and so there's enough time to do your homework.
There's even what is called summer lesson.
Yes.
You know, when you finish in school, like let's say about 2 p.m., then from 2 p.m. to 4, you do extramural lessons, then 5 before the child is back at home. And it's way more complicated than it used to be.
Honestly,
before.
The workload, I would say yes, to an extent, is a whole lot. Because even from school, after closing hour, they give them homework. After summer lessons, there's still homework, and they have to do all of this before the next day. My nephew of about 4 or 5 years old closes school about 3-4 o'clock. So what time does he have to rest? What time does he have to do the homework? Okay, let me just read up a little of the details he posted on Facebook. So he tagged it fraud by Nigerian private schools. Homework, and more homework. He must have been really angry about this.
How does that equate to fraud?
Well, he feels that they're not paying or they're not working the amount that they as parents are paying for the children. It has become clear to many parents that the task of teaching their children has been shifted to them despite the huge fees they keep doling out to private schools. Just as I was saying, children come home with homework that requires over 6 hours to complete, and the children are usually clueless about the topic. Clearly, some of these topics were never introduced in class, and the burden of breaking in the topic is shifted to the parents. Okay, this is the angle he's taking it from. He says, and that's the post. Yes, that picture there is the post that I'm reading out to us now. Okay, they know they are being shafted, but continue to take it. So Nigerian parents remain docile. Some schools try to drive the narrative that all other kids are up to par and only yours is finding it difficult. People are, there were so many reactions actually on this story, and when I went through comments, when I went through people's reactions on this subject matter, most of them were agreed to what he was saying. They say yes, they're experiencing the same thing. A mother was sharing how she has a baby and she has a 4-year-old, that she has to attend to. She has home chores, she has her husband, she also has to attend to. Like, the whole workload was just too much for her.
All right, we'll be moving to the next story. Imo State civil servants threatens to commit suicide with claims that Governor Rochas Okorocha owes him 900,000 and he is suffering hardship. Now, that's a big one.
That is definitely a big one. There's a picture.
But 900,000 naira is not a big deal to Rochas.
And it's also not something that you should commit suicide for. Like 900,000 naira, let's check it in the next 2-3 years. That would be like 100,000 today. You know, it will definitely depreciate. Looking
at the history of the governor, he's, you know, been a philanthropist. I mean, he's been involved in, making lives better for people in terms of being a philanthropist and, you know, catering for people. Before that, how will I call it now? Before he was able to grow up his base and his fans to be able to contest for governorship of the state, and before he won the election. So given his history, well, it may be true, but definitely,
and it may
if this is true,
false.
he might as well just want to pay up, because this is definitely an embarrassment for sure.
It is. Okay, moving away from embarrassing stories, this is quite an unfortunate one. Daddy invites bullies of two daughters' funeral to witness the devastation they caused. And this is just something I think that happens all across the world. Like kids, especially in schools. In fact, even some adults get bullied. It has to do with bullying, and there needs to be an awareness created about it.
Okay, let's make it personal now. Have you ever been bullied?
Of course. When I was growing up in school, I was bullied. Yes.
I recount a particular situation in secondary school. You know, I was just climbing up the stairs, and one of my seniors just pushed my head, and I fell down the stairs.
Oh, wow. And, wow, that's quite unfortunate.
And what was the reason? I don't like the way you're walking. Honestly.
And that's one thing with bullies,
you know,
basically.
They don't really have cogent reasons to do what they do. You understand, in terms of making someone feel depressed and like, you know, just it's like more of having fun to them, like a plaything.
Yes.
But this is really sad.
It favors those who have elder ones in schools anyway. You know, if you have someone who's bullied, you could just report to your elder brother or your elder sister, and they would help you out in that situation. And for me, growing up, I actually went through a military school, so you know, it was worse.
Well, I went to a version of a military school, but I won't tell you.
But we thank God we survived it. Unfortunately, the story is not the same for this young girl. She actually committed suicide, and it was as a result of depression.
Yes.
She was so depressed, and she's just 14 years old. And the father went ahead. I like that he actually involved them in the funeral.
No, honestly, they'll see how serious
yes, come and see what you've done, and that's in a way to show that, or rather to teach them not to continue in such acts.
Okay, we'll be skipping some stories and moving to our fifth story this morning. Talks about Otom again rejecting cattle colony at funeral for victims. This must be this must be a time of his life now that he will never forget in his life. Well, the governor of Benue State has again rejected the suggestion that state should create cattle colony or grazing routes for herdsmen, and he said the suggestions were not acceptable to the Benue people. Now, Dorcon, this is a solution that is like staring at him at the face, and this is something some people are saying we should have done a long time ago, because if we're following civilized societies like the Americas and Europe, this is something they have put in place. How come, I mean, reacting to this, he's saying that he's rejecting it. You know, at the point they said he's rejecting it because he needs to understand how it works. You understand? But how does it work? It's simple as it is. Give them a place to graze, and the necessary nutrients for the soil to enhance, thank God for technology, to enhance the soil for the grasses to grow, and in particular the right grasses and the feeds that will be, you know, useful to the cow to be given to them.
Right now, I think the position he's in isn't very favorable for him to make decisions, because these attacks on his people, it's just like saying, okay, now that we have done this to your people, we want you to just say yes to whatever we bring to your table. I think it's quite hard for him now because lives have been lost. So he doesn't want it to look at, okay, I'm just trying to please these people. I don't know his reasons anyway.
But looking at the trend right now, we're kind of seeing like a trend that is going up, because like 33 were killed, and just recently, you know, some few other people were killed, and they are still trying to get a hold of these people. We've not seen any positive results, or results that is outstanding for us to like, let's applaud the government. And now with that trend, you know, don't you think that this is like missing an opportunity, and probably excites the Fulani headsmen who are involved in these killings?
Speaking of exciting the headsmen, I'm sure it is something that would. But then again, we remember the Plateau State governor said he had earlier warned him about this, and he told him that he should just go ahead or not to sign that bill. But then he still went ahead to do it. Well, I just hope that at the end of the day,
of course,
his rejection doesn't cause more havoc or damage than good.
All right, now before we go, just to look at his response, he said since the state does not even have adequate land for farmers, it does not have the space to give herdsmen for grazing, and he insisted on ranching, saying it is the best way to go and it is in the conformity with global best practices. And Otom said if the recent killings by herdsmen were meant to intimidate the state government to repeal the law, the herdsmen had failed woefully. And he also blamed the killings of Benue indigents on the silence of the federal government and others responsible for the security of lives and property, an accusation he also made on Wednesday. Some truths in his statement, because right now it is action after action, you understand, because the deed is done, people have lost their lives, and now IGP has been stationed in Benue State. Well, hopefully, we hope we get to hear not just new developments about the stories, but of course, positive development, particularly in Benue State. Most
positive. Okay, we're wrapping up here. Unfortunately, we can't bring this story about racism that's actually trending in fashion house H&M. There has been issues about two young boys, a black boy wearing a hoodie with a writing on it, and a white boy also wearing the same hoodie with a different writing. There has been developments every day of the story. First of all, people were complaining, why would the black boy be wearing that hoodie? That's the picture of the black boy, and then the white boy wearing the one with a different writing on it. But then we're behind time, so we can't really bring details on it. You can check online for more details on that story. We'll be wrapping up here, and this is Dork Onrimdan signing out. Have a lovely weekend.
And of course, Mono Balagubu is saying have a lovely weekend. We'll see you on Monday next week.
It's about profit, challenges, demand and supply, risk involved.